Welcome to the Creating Wealth Podcast, where Kyle Curtin takes you on an extraordinary journey alongside renowned multifamily real estate sponsors and syndication experts from every corner of the United States. We teach you how to harness the power of passive real estate investing and witness the transformation of your wealth building strategy. Let's create wealth together.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today's short form episode. Today, I wanted to share a lesson that I learned very recently that I'm very excited to have learned. It was a little bit of a hard lesson, but a very, very good one that I'm definitely going to, continue to use the principle that I learned from that for many, many years to come in pretty much every different area of my life. So, essentially, don't half-ass what you're doing. And my point behind that here, guys, is so many of you guys know that so on my 3-family building in Leominster, over the past 6-ish months or so, I was furnishing the unit and turning that unit into a medium-term rental, for traveling nurses, digital nomads, other types of traveling professionals and that type of thing. And essentially the mentality that I had going in up until getting it, fully furnished and listed the first time, because I ended up listing it twice because the first time didn't work out. And essentially what had happened, throughout that period of time is when I first, kind of heard about the idea of doing furnished housing and, having a little bit of a different strategy instead of just, all right, the walls are painted, units clean, everything's hunky dory. Let's toss it on Zillow, we'll toss it on the MLS and get that thing rented up. Well, essentially, when I first heard about the MTR strategy, I looked on furnishfinder.com, the data version of that site. I don't know if it's like furnishfinder.com/data or something like that. But if you Google furnished finder data, this website will be the first search result. And essentially what that is basically you're able to view data for particular markets that you're in for searches over the past 12 months. You're able to tell like the median, rent by the room price, rent by the entire place price. You're able to see, what units are listed for furnished housing, And essentially on the data version of this site, I really like the numbers that I saw for Leominster, and especially some of the comps and that type of deal. So that is where I got my justification that, this strategy would be one that could be pretty lucrative, and I wasn't 100% sold on it. But I was very close and I was confident enough in the data that was provided to be able to, have confidence in continuing to kind of shift this unit into a different direction. You know what I mean? So essentially, the mentality that I had was how can I get an 100% proof of concept while being as cost effective as I can at the same time? And it sounds all hunky dory, right, guys? Like, my thinking was, oh, I'll furnish this unit, I won't go all out, but I'll do okay. I'll make it, pretty decent. Not spectacular, but pretty decent to be able to essentially keep my costs on the lower side, which were in the thousands anyway, you know what I mean? To kind of change up the model a little bit from a long-term unit. And essentially, I'll try to keep things as cheap as I can, list it, and then, I'll get the once I see that like this strategy works 100%, then I'll put a little bit more money in, for higher quality furniture, for like rugs and nice TV stands, like big, flat screen TVs with Roku and like all that stuff. redoing cabinets, like the whole 9 yards, right? And I listed it the first time. I didn't get any bites on it for like 2 weeks. And the other part of that conversation is I was also focusing a lot on the syndication end, so I was like, all right, like this, the MTR finally, furnished, all that type of deal. I'll take some quick pitches. I won't send it to a professional photographer because that's a good idea, because we're trying to save costs here. um, and essentially, like I'll just like list it on the website. Like, it'll probably take a couple weeks for it to list and that type of thing. And I could just focus on my syndication stuff and building that arm of the brand, you know what I mean? And eventually, people will start to reach out and I'll just address them as they come up, and it should get rented pretty soon. Well, few weeks goes by, and then I think it was the third week that went by after that, and I started to ask questions. And essentially, like, I got a lot of feedback from different folks in the MTR and STR, short-term rental arena. Um, and I got some advice that uh, was a little tough to hear, but it was very realistic, and I'm incredibly glad, to have those particular people in my life and able to just be honest with me, you know what I mean, and be like, oh hey dude, like you kind of half-assed this thing, and it's something that I'm incredibly appreciative for, right? Because it made me essentially take a step back, look at the unit, listen to some of the suggestions. Um, like move some furniture around and that type of deal. And yeah, it's something that I never really saw, you know what I mean? And like I mentioned in the beginning, that mentality of like basically trying to save a couple bucks and just get it good enough, to get the MTR off the ground and running, and I'll pour money in almost as if it's kind of like a stop loss, automatic stop loss in the equities markets. Like you set your rule for like, if this goes below 8%, then it's an instant sell. You know what I mean? Like at the next available point or whatever. It was essentially like a very, very loose principle along the same lines as that, right? And yeah, so that basically no way to do it. And let me tell you that that lesson in itself proved ridiculously valuable, and I'll tell you why in a couple minutes. Including actually today, something clicked in my brain, um, for something completely different, but utilize this same principle as well. And now I have an awareness of it. So now, you can kind of carry that lesson into further endeavors, even outside of the world of real estate and business, But anyway, so yeah, I mean that was basically the um kind of the gist of that. And essentially what had happened was the um yeah, the unit wasn't rented. I ended up taking it down, and I ended up, taking some of the very good suggestions from, a couple of my really close friends. I can't talk right. Yeah, so essentially like some of the things that really jutted out at me are, painting the kitchen cabinets white, sanding them down, making them look all pretty, like cleaning up the hardware handles, that type of deal. Um, the laundry, having a washer dryer on site is a non-negotiable. I found that out the hard way. And the reason that I say that is I do have washer dryer hookups on site. But it's kind of quirky from the get-go because my building is definitely a lot older. Probably like 150-ish years plus minus. I haven't really looked, but it's probably something like that. And essentially like there's one set of washing machine hookups in the basement, and there's electric dryer hookups within each of the three units, so but like with the washer, the drain, there was like I want to say it was like a 2-inch PVC run that was like 4 feet above where the washing machine would sit, so like there was no pipe like pump there or whatever to like pump it up, like whatever, and the thing was like I went into the other room, and that PVC pipe, like it was, just like ran through the hangers or whatever, like touching the joists above it. or connected to those. And the pipe was just cut, and like looking at my PVC main drain line, which was in the same room, there was no like tees with like a cap on it. There was no penetrations, like nothing, right? Like it was just like some really weird stuff. Like, this thing used to be hooked up back in the day, but now it's not for whatever reason. So basically, like one of the areas that I tried to cut corners in was essentially there was a laundromat like right around the corner from the house, like literally like walking distance. So I was like, oh well, like they can probably use that. Or else, I'd have to pay a little over $1,000 to have a plumber repipe that line and connect everything back up. And one of my other tenants actually bought a washing machine that was a lot cheaper from Facebook Marketplace and ended up putting it in. And that's when I found out that the drain line wasn't hooked up because you could hear the water shooting onto the floor in the other room. But yeah, so like basically that was an area I tried to, kind of see what would happen. But basically, guys, like my point being is I learned a very, very important lesson, and it's something that I absolutely, was passing on to you guys one way or another. And that is like you can't be half pregnant, especially when it comes to, a lot of different entrepreneurial type of ventures, a lot of types of properties, businesses, what have you. You know what I mean? You either have to be all in and go freaking balls to the wall and just, put your all into it and don't look back, or it might be best and it might serve you better to not actually try it at all. If you're not looking to put the full amount of time and kind of work through the learning curve and that type of thing. And it was a little bit of a hard lesson for me, you know what I mean? Because of course, the projected dollar amounts for that unit, like the gross rents, look very freaking attractive. I mean, even especially like even after you like paying utilities, you know what I mean? But yeah, so like the biggest lesson there was like I screwed it up the first time with that. Nobody rented it because the market decided that I didn't most certainly did not do a good enough job. Had some friends, give me some really, really good advice that I was incredibly appreciative for and very that was very, loving of them to be realistic and real, you know what I mean? Um and then I ended up going back, making like a little scope of work. I ended up, painting the cabinets, making them look all like, fresh and white and everything, like a, bunch of layers of like new white paint, cleaning everything up. I ended up buying these like puck lights off of Amazon that had like a remote to them and stuff to go under the cabinets. And it looked kick ass, guys. Like, holy shit. Uh, and they were only like $30, but anyway. Um, yeah, and then I ended up having the plumber hook the line up again. I ended up having professional pictures done and essentially just doing it the way that it should have been done the first time. You know what I mean? And it's like that was the thing that was a little tough is like I was committed, but I was committed with a stop loss, with a contingency in a way, of like, or I should say I was like 80% committed because I mean, I was a little nervous, you know what I mean? Like, and, not to mention, like, yeah, I looked at the data and the data proved all, and I definitely trust the data to some degree, to a large degree, rather, on that website. But it wasn't proof of concept until the money was in my pocket from the first month's rent. You know what I mean? So it was kind of one of those things. Like I had faith, but not 100% enough. And I don't know if that's maybe just a normal part of entrepreneurship, but I maybe not necessarily, have kind of had some of those moments of just requiring to have immense faith. To date yet, I should say of that degree. But yeah, it was just kind of one of those things. Like sometimes, guys, like there was an incredibly important lesson. Don't be half pregnant. Either go all in or don't try it at all. And to my point a little bit earlier, one of the things that clicked in my mind today, I was talking to my buddy about going to the gym and that type of thing. And I was asking him, and it was literally like on the way home from my day job today. And I was like, yeah, I'm like, not for nothing, man. I'm like, but is going to the gym, ridiculously consistently, being extremely committed to it, being all in, um, basically, like, is it either like, is it this does the same principle apply of, like, being ridiculously committed in every way, shape, or form to going to the gym, or just not going at all, you know what I mean? And, like, I don't know, like, whatever the other option is. Like, it doesn't really make sense to go, like, once or twice a week, you know what I mean, in my opinion? Like, there's pretty much just the 2 ends of that spectrum of, like, you're gonna put the freaking work in, you're gonna be very committed, and you're gonna get some pretty solid results over time, or you're just not gonna do it at all. But if you're somewhere in the middle, like, you're probably not gonna see any results, and, you might end up just quitting anyway, you know what I mean? But I'm excited because, that principle now is very ingrained of, like, "All right, dude, like, if you wanna go into something, like, you're all in," you know what I mean? Like, whatever that looks like, you know? Um, and I mean, like, even, like, one of those things, like, the website, which I will plug in a minute. The website for Creating Wealth, creatingwealth.com, I ended up, paying somebody to a pretty reasonable amount of money to make that site, and I've changed some things around a little bit, here or there, in the recent past, but that was one of those things. I'm like, you know what? I'm like, I'm not gonna half-ass this because it's gonna turn out like crap. It's not gonna give off, um, that professional, entrepreneurial type of vibe that I'm trying to give off. And yeah, I'm like, you know what? Like, who not how, delegate the crap out of it, basically supply the vision and give it to the integrator, and in which case was a website designer on Fiverr. And I think he did a pretty solid job, but not to get off track. But yeah, essentially, guys, that's my lesson for today is just don't half-ass it. Um, as tempting as it can be sometimes, especially when your faith isn't at 100%, in a new venture and that type of thing, just go all in, and I mean, at least at that point, that you put everything in, you put your front foot forward, and, like you can learn from a different set of variables at that point instead of wondering what if, I did those cabinets over, I added the washer dryer drain again, and that type of thing. And by the way, I forget if I mentioned it. I don't believe that I did. But as soon as I got all of that stuff done, got the professional pictures done, posted it on Furnish Finder, Airbnb, like, Ale Solutions, like all of those freaking sites, there was a couple that rented it from Airbnb for 33 days. And I got my first payout not too long after that. So it was just one of those kind of like full circle moments, of like, wow, like I literally just witnessed a journey of like getting dragged through the mud a little bit, learning a pretty crazy lesson, doing it, coming back again the second time, doing it right this time, and then actually getting paid at the end of it, and now things have been going well. I've been getting a lot more inquiries. And yeah, it sounds so simple, but I feel like that's one of those topics, guys, that like, especially when you're starting something new, like you kind of want to like dip your toes in a little bit. Like you don't want to go all in because like maybe it'll be for you, maybe it won't. And there's probably a balance to that. But my opinion and my mentality going forward is whenever I start something new, I'm going all in on it. You know what I mean? Because like you're not gonna know. You know what I mean? And it's just one of those things. So but alrighty, guys, this episode has gotten a little bit longer than usual, but I wanted to thank you guys so much for everything, for listening to the podcast, especially with 3 times the amount of episodes coming out every week as before. We're going from 2 long form interviews a month, like 3 months ago, to 12 episodes a month with a mixture of like 3 different types of episodes of long form, short form, um, you know, dividend episodes from like actionable bits from past episodes, past interviews, solo episodes, long and short form, like all kinds of stuff. Just trying to give as much value as possible to our community. Um, but yeah, if you guys could, please leave a rating and a review on the show. Please share this with your friends. If they're, on the fence about potentially starting something new, whether it's MTR, whether it's SDR, whether it's a new venture, like whatever, send this to them. Let them hear this story, and might be able to help. Also, if I can help in any way, shape, or form, feel free to reach out to me, guys. You can definitely email me. That's Kyle@creatingwealth.com. So KYLE at KCREatingwealth.com. And alrighty, my friends, I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.
That's a wrap for today's episode. We want to thank you for being a valued listener of the Creating Wealth podcast. Make sure to visit www.creatingwealth.com to connect with us. Dive into our ever-expanding library of informative blogs. Get access to our private investor portal and explore a wide range of additional valuable resources. Stay tuned for our next episode as we continue to create wealth together.